Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Okay, well, today our speaker is Weil. Trip has been practicing in the Theravadan tradition since 2004. He is a graduate of Spirit Rock's community Dharma leader and dedicated practitioner programs. Trip serves on the board of San Francisco Insight, where he also leads sitting groups and teaches meditation classes. He is a psychotherapist in private practice in San Francisco and a former attorney, for which we will forgive him. So welcome, Trip. Again, I'm going to keep you all muted until the question and answer part comes.
Thanks. Thank you, and hi, everyone. Good to be with you. I have you in Hollywood Squares mode right now, so Jeff, you're Paul Lind in my setup right now. So anyway, it's great to be with you all. So what I wanted to talk about today is I've been thinking about this notion of shelter in place, and have been thinking about it as lately been trying to think about it as a Buddhist teaching, or as something that has that could even be taken as a Dharma practice. So that's what I'd like to do today: explore shelter in place a bit. To me, the core of the message is extremely Buddhist. The idea that the place of greatest safety is right where you are. That, or we could add another meaning. So we could say shelter in place means shelter is in place. It's here. It's available. It's established. It's already part of this moment. We can think of shelter as being something that we need to find somewhere else, and are so accustomed to looking for it somewhere else, thinking that it's going to be found in certain experiences or in others. So it's really kind of radical to think that shelter is right here, in this place, right now. The first step, really, in exploring that is just to stop, like we all did, a few weeks ago. We just stopped. It's kind of amazing, really, how everything just stopped. When I was in training as a therapist, I remember one of the teachers early on talking about how especially new therapists will have a tendency to want to kind of fix everything. And she said, here's what I want your mantra to be. Don't just do something, sit there. And it feels like that was part of that early moment of the shelter in place. Once we did all the things we had to do, was just don't do something, sit there. And it is a radical idea that instead of trying to fix things, we're just going to see what's here. I'd like to read a poem. This is from the new book, The First Free Women, a translation of the Theravadan, which is the ancient poems written by the first awakened nuns. New translation by Maddie Weingast. So this poem is titled, I believe this is the name of the nun who wrote it, Another Tissa, Tissa. She says, find your true home on the path. Find the path right here in the center of your own heart. If you keep searching in the past and searching in the future, you will search and search, but your searching will never end. So the invitation here is to think about what is our shelter that's right here, right at the center of our own heart. When I think about the word shelter in a Buddhist context, of course, an immediate association is the three refuges. Refuge basically being defined as something that provides shelter, or a dictionary definition I found was a condition of being safe or sheltered from pursuit, danger, or trouble. So we have the three refuges as our kind of dharmic shelters. The refuge of Buddha, the refuge of the possibility of freedom here and now. The Dharma refuge, which is the refuge of the teachings. Dharma can be thought of as the teachings, of course, but also the refuge of the truth of how things are. Dharma, just the truth of how things are. And the Sangha refuge, the refuge of community and also our interconnectedness. So there's an invitation. How can we find shelter in the possibility of freedom, in simply the truth of how things are right now? Is there shelter in that? And in the community, this beautiful community here that still exists quite strongly, quite robustly in the midst of all of this. Our interconnectedness still so much a part of our moment-to-moment lives. And of course, the interconnectedness that's behind sheltering in place, that all our actions are having these cascading effects in small ways that are so clear to us now. Just, who you might pass on the street might be a difference between sickness and health. So let's explore a little bit how we find shelter in practice. And I think about that poem I just read and the way that it points to the path being at the center of our own heart. And to me, that's the key in practice right now is just connecting to what's actually here in the center of my heart. Trying to maintain an open and loving heart, able to meet whatever arises. Trying to stay present, just showing up for each thing that's coming up. So this isn't a shelter that abandons or rejects what's difficult. In fact, we embrace it. One of the things that I appreciated most, I felt like at the beginning of all of this a few weeks ago, it was like the Dharma spigot just opened, and suddenly people were connecting in different ways. I was reading a lot more online, getting emails, all that kind of stuff. And as this kind of Dharma spigot opened to respond to what was happening, one of the things I kept hearing was people pointing out how what was happening is a manifestation of the heavenly messengers of aging and sickness and death. And I read that a couple of times at the very beginning, 3 or 4 weeks ago, when it was really 5 weeks ago, even when it was really clear that this was going to be impacting us. And at first, I remember my reaction was like, this is too soon. I don't want to hear about the heavenly messengers right now. Like, I'm actually still really freaking out. And so I don't really want to be thinking about how, death and illness is a teacher somehow. It's just like, keep it away from me. That was the initial response. But it's actually really helpful, I think, to connect to that aspect of this, that these are our teachers, and what we're going through is, in one sense, extraordinary, and in another sense, not that extraordinary at all. It's like just a different version of the same old, same old. There's always a truth to how things are that we can hold in awareness. And that might be a sort of simple truth. I'm sitting at a table looking into a screen. It might be a very deep and profound and life-changing truth. Having an illness, having coronavirus. But there's always just some truth to how things are that we hold in awareness, and that truth is unfolding or arising constantly, just according to natural laws, and that is completely unchanged. That's the same now as it ever was. And yet, of course, what's so extraordinary is that the ordinariness of day-to-day life and the vulnerability that is always present, it has been revealed. Like, this is part of the order of things, that we're always vulnerable. And we know that, but there's a way that we also don't know that or forget that. So part of what's happening that's extraordinary is, I think, just that ordinary truth becoming so alive. There's a poem from Rumi, The Tent. Outside the freezing desert night, this other night inside grows warm, kindling. Let the landscape be covered with thorny crust. We have a soft garden in here. The continents blasted, cities and little towns, everything become a scorched, blackened ball. The news we hear is full of grief for that future, but the real news inside here is there's no news at all. I love how he points to these two worlds, what he's calling inside and outside. And of course, we actually live in both. Sheltering in place doesn't mean that we're able to avoid the world of change and uncertainty and loss. But it means that we encounter those challenges from an understanding that in some way they're not news. That line, the real news inside here is there's no news at all. There is something unchanging. There is something that is not new in all of this. Not a deviation from what has always been. And when we understand that, we stay inside even as we venture outside. Inside with that understanding that there's a kind of safety and protection in connecting to what is inside in that warm kindling, even as we're outside in the vulnerability of it all. So I'll talk a little bit more personally about just what it's been like to shelter in place for me, and I'd be interested to hear what it's like for you too. For me, it's meant more practice. There's a way that this time has started to feel a bit like a retreat, where so much has fallen away, and there's a certain kind of sensitivity then to what's going on inside me. One of the things I've seen as I've been sitting practicing more is how scattered I feel often, and kind of disorganized, and like little things have been getting to me in ways that are really surprising. Like I go from 0 to 60 in terms of frustration really fast. Something happens, and it's just like, I can't take it. And then kind of back from 60 to say 30 pretty quickly too, where it's like it calms down really fast. It's been really interesting to notice that, just to think about how sensitive I am at the moment. But I would say that lately, in the past, maybe few days, things have started to feel a bit different, and there's a bit less reactivity, a bit more of a focus on what's happening moment to moment. Even if what's happening moment to moment is some kind of, just difficulty, fear or frustration or something that's unpleasant. But I do feel like there's been a little bit more for myself lately, a little bit more of a kind of a trusting attitude of just like returning to what's actually happening over and over, which is a little bit paradoxical, right? Because the world itself feels in some ways less trustworthy, and yet returning to that over and over is creating a certain kind of ease. So it's really an interesting view from within, just getting to see a lot about oneself. I see how quickly and deeply I suffer when I need things to be any other way than how they are. How much I miss when I come from that perspective of like things have to be different somehow. And how lonely I can feel when I'm in that kind of a space, or even lost, really lost. And then by contrast, I see how it feels to be connected to things as they are. I see my heart opening as I think about all the suffering that's going on and what's happening. And the contrast for me is most clear between that kind of closed down heart and the more open heart when I think about something that really is scary to me. And I've seen how, like, if I think about getting ill or dying, or someone close to me dying or something like that, if I do it from this perspective of avoidance, it is incredibly constricting and so painful, really hard to describe in a way, but I imagine that some of that is familiar, or that we each have our own version of that. And then it's really amazing how, coming from a different perspective, just thinking like, probably people I know will get sick, or even already are sick, will die, or even I could die. When I think about it with that sense of openness, it's just completely different. It really is quite amazing. It's like I've always known that. I can't say I've always known that to be true, but I've known that to be true as long as I've been practicing. But there's something about this moment where we have both the space to really feel things, and also the vulnerability that is being reinforced over and over again. I think it's really creating a unique opportunity to connect to this truth in this way. When we can open to what's scary, it feels okay. It actually does. We have a vital teacher right now in training us to relax or even dissolve into reality. And really a great chance to see what actually provides shelter and what actually leaves us feeling vulnerable and exposed. And so, just in the like strictest Dharma sense, we're just really right in the heart of the Four Noble Truths, right? I mean, there's difficulty, or suffering, or unsatisfactoriness. That's just everywhere. It's hard to miss that right now. there's a cause. And I think we really do have the opportunity to see how, to investigate our own suffering as it's coming up in a given moment, and really see the difference between what our experience is when there's an open kind of accepting attitude and a closed avoidant attitude. That cause of suffering really is so obvious. There's the possibility of freedom, and we're experiencing it all lots of different times, I'm sure, just these moments of freedom, of release from anxiety or even joy, a sense of some sort of simple pleasure that just comes alive. And there's the path that leads to the end of suffering. So we have the opportunity to really see that path. Like, you can really ask yourself, and I think with a lot of trust and faith, really ask yourself, what actually makes you feel better in this moment? What actually helps? And then see if there's a way to map that to our understanding of the Dharma. Maybe what helps in a moment is, I don't know, a scoop of ice cream. How does that fit? Is that real freedom? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. We get to ask ourselves these questions, and we have a lot of space to do it. So I'm going to close and wanting to leave time for people to talk about your own experience. I hope that'll work with our group the way it is. I really want to hear from people. What's providing you shelter at this time from a Dharma perspective, or what isn't? What are those moments of freedom that you've noticed? What are the moments that you feel really caught, and how do you work with them? So I'm going to close with a very famous saying. This is from the third Zen patriarch. The great way isn't difficult for those who are unattached to their preferences. Let go of longing and aversion, and everything will be perfectly clear. When you cling to a hairbreadth of distinction, heaven and earth are set apart. So I want to leave with the suggestion that the world beyond longing and aversion is our shelter. That's our true shelter. And it is in place. It's here. We can tap into it. Maybe not live in it all the time, but it's available. Or going back to the poem from Sister Tisa, find the path right here in the center of your own heart. So thank you for your attention and for listening, and let's see if we can have a discussion of some sort here. I think people know that you can raise your hand through the participant window.
Let's try it, see if it works.
Yeah. And if that's not working, wave your hands or something, and hopefully we'll see it.
There's 47 of us, so waving hands is a little chaotic.
Oh, that's true.
You can use that participant thing and raise your hand virtually. It will work better. Well, I'll start because I'm finding that this time feels so precious to me, to have the time to feel what I feel and really investigate it and not be slave to the next task. I've been attending a couple of different sanghas, virtually, which is I can't do when I'm living in my normal day-to-day routine. So it feels like a real gift to be able to receive a lot of wisdom and a lot of community, albeit in the Hollywood Squares array. I see someone. Oh, that's in chat. No, that's not good. No? Someone have their hand up? Hey,
I'll
Sue?
go for a minute. It's Grisha. If I'm not on your screen, thank you so much for your talk. And I just find that I'm really grateful for my practice, because it's the only time during every day when my body and when my nervous system is actually at rest. I find that, like, even though I don't have to be anywhere, or I can't be anywhere, I'm often on my computer. I'm doing a lot of Zoom meetings for 12-step recovery. And also I'm Zooming with my students, trying to do distance teaching, whatever that is. And I don't know what that is yet. And so I'm like all day. But the minute I sit down and set my timer and go in, like, wow, it's like I have the worst time lately with like falling over and, kind of like falling into sleep, because my body is finally like just letting go. So I really appreciate that. And I have to be very careful myself, because I am an addict to the core. So I'm in recovery from compulsive eating, and at one time weighed 320 pounds, and I can just look over and see my refrigerator, and reminding myself that I heard your ice cream story.
Yeah.
Like, for me, that would be poison. I can't do that kind of thing. So, again, instead of reaching for a substance or, turning on porn or going online to shop or whatever, I just have to like come back. And another practice that's helping me is connecting with others, for sure. I have Buddhist friends, and we just this morning, every day we've been sort of FaceTiming or calling and reading Pema Chodron, Mark Nepo, Tara Brach, Fisher, reading a whole bunch of Buddhist readings. And right now, for whatever reason, we are into the whole idea that like this is the path. This wretchedness is bringing us back to our practice, and it is the path. This is the path, kind of thing. So, anyway, thanks for your talk, and thanks everyone for being on here. And namaste.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and appreciate what you're saying about returning to the path, and just it's beautiful to hear how, for you, community is coming together around that, and with reading and just connecting to different teachers. That's great. And also, I really appreciated what you said about eating and addiction, and I do think, like, with even in offering that example of eating, like, that there is this way where whatever we're going through right now, we really get to see so sharply whether it is taking us in a good direction or a bad direction. Like, it's, yeah, just with everything that happens, I think that it's happening very quickly. It's like, if it's moving in a good direction, it moves quickly. And if it's moving in a bad direction, it moves quickly. So if we just keep our eyes open, we're getting lessons all the time. So yeah, thank you very much.
You're unmuted, Christian, if you want to ask a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Trip. I really appreciated what you had to say. I feel like I felt it very deeply. And for me, this period of time has been so precious. At first, I was afraid when it was approaching. And now that we've been in it for a while. My inside voice is becoming louder, and I think able to more connect with what's really going on with me and what my heart really wants to do. And so I'm so grateful for finding things around me to do, and not feeling distracted by all the chatter that's going on around. So again, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Jesus, go ahead.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the talk. I really appreciate this. I relate with what a couple of you have been saying. It's so difficult to quiet the mind. I was expecting, I'm going to be sheltered here with my family. I'm very fortunate to have my family, my home, everything, my job. But the mind is just like it doesn't stop, doesn't allow me to focus. The anxiety level. So what I found is very helpful is to touch base with others like yourselves, with friends and families, and kind of gives me a sense of, normality. Like, it's not me, it's many of us are in the same boat, are experiencing the same thing. So it calms me down a lot. So I really appreciate all of you for putting this together and staying in touch, because I think human contact is just something that I personally really need every day.
Beautiful. Thank you. Can I just add one thing too? It's just, I wonder if it's possible to find shelter even with that in that mind. Like, are there moments where you can just kind of observe the spinning mind, or and what's it like if you're in those moments? Like, does it shift it for you?
Is that an actual question?
It was. If there's an actual answer.
It's good. Yeah. So I mean, I do Tai Chi and meditation, and so I'm working with this image of the cars, right, and the traffic, that my thoughts and my mind are like these noises and traffic that passes by. They're just things passing by, and I have to let them go. I don't have to identify them. I don't have to engage with them. So when I get into that sort of my shelter, by looking at it like, all right, yeah, this thought is just like another car passing by, or another airplane, although these days we don't see airplanes. There's just traffic in my mind the same way that I see that physical traffic outside.
Yeah, great. I love that image, traffic. Thanks.
Pass.
So if I'm free to talk at the moment. So I believe, Trip, you asked, I forget exactly what it was, but it triggered off a thought in my mind about getting stuck and stopping. And so for me, so in some ways, an interesting piece of this is it's not very different. And one of the things in Buddhist or other terms is that I'm going to die, but I was going to die before coronavirus. As soon as I was born, I was there, and eventually I reluctantly realized it. But what happens for me, particularly in the evening, and I have many decades of insomnia, though it's been pretty much in remission, and currently it's essentially fine. But late at night, sometimes during the night, I wake up and my mind starts going off on all kinds of trips about thinking and anxiety and so forth. And what I do is I turn to one or another of the 6 or 8 Buddhist authored books that are sitting next to the chair that I generally sit in. John Kabat-Zinn, something about where you are is where you are, something like that, is particularly helpful. And I read that for a few minutes, and it shifts my mind back to what I guess some might call Buddhism, and I just call sanity.
Yeah, it's so nice, isn't it, to just be able to tap into something and so quickly just get a reminder. And great that you just have your favorites there. You can just go to them. Those middle of the night hours can be hard too if you wake up. So that's great.
Well, and it's annoying to do that, but I often find the next day that I've slept particularly well just from those relatively few moments of reorienting my recalcitrant mind.
Nice. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, Prisha, I appreciate your comment about the food being a distraction and a lethal distraction. I've heard reference to the COVID-19 pounds, and I think that's I think we'll be lucky if we get away with that. But I think the fact that everything has been upended, that everybody, or most people, not everybody, but most people's lives have been changed, altered, and that they're behaving differently. I see a lot, and I try to focus a lot on the kindness that that people are exhibiting, and the care that they're taking for themselves and for others when I just see them out on the street or out in the park. And I really want to focus on that and not the things that some people do that irritate. And just see the abundant kindness that there is out in the world. And I mean, I guess I see it when people are checking in on me who I don't normally have sort of phone calls or texts with. And I try not to focus on, oh, they're checking in on the elderly, It's like, okay, well, thank you. Thank you for caring, and thank you for taking time to make sure that people are doing okay. So I'm just seeing an abundance of kindness in evidence.
Tom?
Hi, thanks so much, Trip, for wonderful talk, good reminders. So for me, I mean, I've worked from home for the past 18 years. So it's funny, things are not that different. So it's really great to hear everybody's insights about what can be learned, because a lot of these things I'm overlooking. I mean, I do love being back in union with Sangha, not just this one, but other ones that are now available to me, even though I moved away a year and a half ago from San Francisco. So that's great. But, the other thing is some of the things that you all have mentioned are kind of annoying me.
Tom, can you get a little closer to the computer? We're losing your audio.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
That's better, yes.
I'm on an earbud. Okay. But anyway, some of the things that one of the things that has annoyed me is all these people like suddenly being needy and needing attention and wanting to reach out and blowing up their Facebook. So what I'm trying to remind myself of is I think a lot of us feel a loss of control, or we're seeking some semblance of control or agency, and that expresses itself in many different ways. So if I see someone shaming others for not wearing a mask, or, shaming people for not social distancing properly, I try not to be too reactive and back up and sort of have compassion for what's perhaps triggering them. Because in one way or another, I think we're all being triggered to some degree. So it's I think it's really developed more compassion.
Thank you. I think we missed the last. I missed the last thing you said. It's some.
Oh, I said this is causing me to develop more compassion. For others and their reactivity.
Yes. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. And I mean, we all can see that we're just all reacting a lot, probably. It's amazing, really, to see just how it's all how it's all unfolding.
I wanted to thank you for your talk, Trip. It's obviously topical, but I liked the poem by Rumi too, The Tent. That was a great metaphor for being inside ourselves. Ramdas always said, "Be here now," and shelter in place is like a new twist on that. Yeah, and I like that you talked about the deathless, or the place that doesn't change. Another thing Ramdas talked about was, he said, as long as we're not resting in the place that doesn't change, we'll be afraid of the place that does. And when we're in that place, it's indestructible, and that's easy to forget. But inside the tent is a great analogy. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so true. That I love that Ram Dass quote too. That can you say it again? The one when we're,
as long as we're not resting in the place that doesn't change, we'll be afraid of the place that does.
Yeah, beautiful.
We have two more hands raised. Aleda, am I saying that correct? I'm unmuting you now, I hope. Go ahead. Can you hear us? Can you speak?
Hello, everybody. My name is Aleida Reyes, and I am very thankful for the opportunity to participate in this meeting. I'm Nicaraguan, and I live in Nicaragua. So I'm very appreciative of this opportunity to join you today. I wanted to share my perspective on the topic that you are discussing today. I feel like somebody else said that this is a huge opportunity for us to develop compassion in our hearts. I feel that we can all, like somebody was saying before, connect in some way or another to the suffering, the fear, and all of the anxiety that most of us are living at this point. And I feel that is giving me a lot of strength to continue to think about ways in which I can bring shelter to people. I have always had, or from very early in my life, a very strong sense that I can be there for people. And I think this has become more of an obsession now, because I see a lot of people, like you said, like going out of control and feeling either sad or afraid, so I feel that I have an important sort of a mission, so to speak, right, to think of ways to channel all the love and compassion I feel for others. So just like trying to go back to see in what ways I can help others more, and I can shelter people more than I have to this moment in my life. So I feel that is, like how I am sort of embracing this new opportunity, because this is the way I see it. I think it's an opportunity for humankind, and I think it's an opportunity for myself to continue to think of ways to serve others, to show my love to others, and to shelter others. So I'm very thankful again to all of you, even if you did not invite me, but, to have me here and just like listen to all your very valuable comments and perspectives. Thank you so much.
You, Mike.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you again for being here. This is one of the first opportunities I've had to participate in one of these, and I have to say I appreciate it a lot. I'm one of those people who's really struggling with all of this because by nature I'm an extrovert and involved with people, and by training I'm an anthropologist and a social worker, and it's very hard for me. I mean, within these traditions, the monastic tradition, Eastern or Western, within the Western Christian tradition, in the Benedictine tradition, Benedictine monks and nuns take a vow of stability, which is kind of what we're doing right now. It's an enforced, if you will, vow of stability, which I frankly am having a hard time with. So I really appreciate what is being said, and I really appreciate the young woman who spoke, Alida, I think your name was. First of all, I appreciate that she's speaking from Nicaragua. I mean, it's useful to hear from another part of the world that that we're not the only people dealing with this issue. So I just want to say thank you, Trip Weil, and thank you everybody, because I feel like I'm learning with this process, and I appreciate that you're all here. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Trip. And thank you all for bearing with this rather complicated process. I think we have time for some announcements. Does anyone have an announcement they would like to share?
I have a question, Clint. Can I?
Yeah.
This is a very practical question, but where do you get a mask? I've been looking all over, and Tom, you're talking about how people say not wearing masks. But I would love to wear a mask, but they're all being reserved for hospital personnel, or that I can see. So if I can give me some guidance on that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, they're now saying that even the fabricated masks that aren't the truly medical masks are helpful to some degree. And so they're allowing people to wear those. So, I mean, you can fashion one out of cloth. I don't know that it's going to be 100% effective, but they're actually recommending that people do that now, because most of us don't have access to masks anymore. You can't buy them. That's what I know. Someone might know something more than I do.
I was on a Zoom call yesterday with high school friends, and on the subject of masks, one of the women had made a mask out of a yarmulke, and then another woman said, "Well, you could use a bra." So she went out and got a bra and was showing how you could use a bra, but also an old, gay handkerchief.
Jim, do you have a bra I can borrow for you?
I don't, but I thought maybe you did.
I do.
I bidding war for Captain's bra.
I got this mask at Coal Valley Hardware this week.
Oh really?
Check in with them. It's not cheap. It was like $40 or something. Oh. And they, they're in short supply, and they don't come in a variety of colors, but they did have some coming in.
Okay, thank you for that.
I have an announcement.
Yes.
Two announcements, actually. Wednesday evening from 7:30 to 9, we have our Wednesday night GBF Live group. And this week we're going to have people bring poetry or readings or a piece of art that maybe they've done, or they want to show us a Zoom tour of their meditation space or something about them and it inspires their connection or relates to Dharma. And, that's a broad term, but something that opens your heart and helps you connect to your heart. The other announcement I want to make is about Donna, and that GBF still needs your support to keep going. And you can access the Donna link on the front page of the website, gaybuddhist.org, or under the donations link. Okay. Thank you very much.
Let's close with a little dedication of memory. It's on their chat, but I will read it. We can all sort of bring we can't hold hands, but maybe we can hold the intention for well-being for each other while we listen to these words. By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity, without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all that lives.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you all. Don't forget the Donna.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Trip.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.